Take it easy. Take it easy.
All right, everybody, welcome in to the podcast, The Easy Approach. I am Nate, and I'm joined, as always, by my good buddy, Tony.
Hello, hello. Happy to be here and glad that you guys are joining us as well.
Yes, so recently, Tony and I and a bunch of our buddies and my wife has been joining us, and we've been playing a game, a video game, like online game, as a group called Repo. And basically, you're just a bunch of robots, and you're running around trying to collect stuff while avoiding these monsters coming at you and trying to kill you. So that's been fun. Tony and I, both of us, like since we were kids. I assume when you were a kid, you played video games, Tony.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean that was definitely a huge part of my life growing up, and that is kind of what this is going to revolve around today.
Mm-hmm.
Interestingly enough, the question of, I think the podcast is going to be titled, "Can video games develop your character, or can you grow from playing a video game?" But really, it's just kind of revolve around video games in general, because it's been a big part of both of our lives since, like I said, since we were young, and even as adults, where both of us are busy and married, and I've got kids, and we got a lot of stuff going on. It's still a really nice way to connect with friends over the internet and keep in touch with buddies that don't live in the same area anymore, and even just like a nice unwinding hobby kind of thing. But that basic question, can playing video games actually develop your character? Can they grow you as a human? Which is kind of a funny way to put it, because it's like a lot of characters, you create your character. And so there's almost a nice pun here where the video games developing your character. Will we lean into that? I don't know. Just depends on
I've always been a big RPG fan, so I mean, it makes sense.
That's right. Yeah. We're not just talking about like skills. We're talking about things like perseverance or empathy or even like discipline. Mm-hmm. So I was really curious. Like Tony was the one who brought up this idea for this particular topic. But we want to just kind of like back and forth talk about our own experiences, and then even looking at it from a faith perspective, but just keeping it relatable, whether you're someone that enjoys video games or whether you're someone that would say video games are for degenerates, degenerate losers.
Bunch of nerds.
I think this will be an interesting conversation for people of all spectrums here.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree, and I think it's an interesting context coming from you and I specifically, Nate, because I feel like more than maybe not everyone in our particular friend group, but I feel like we definitely categorize the idea of how we do enjoy some nerdy things. We do enjoy video games. We enjoy books. We enjoy entertainment on a pop culture level to some degree. But at the same time, we're both very sporty, and we enjoy our sports balls teams.
I'm sporty. Right? I'm a sporty boy.
Like we have our fantasy football, which an argument can be made is quite nerdy as well.
Yeah.
Just for
Man, I'm thinking about dropping out this year. It was such a bad experience last year. I think I'm actually it might be the end.
Man, well, it's been over a decade run, if I'm not mistaken, with our particular league.
Long run, yeah.
Well, I'm the type that it's hard for me to stop once I've started.
Yeah.
The commitment.
Once you pop, fun don't stop.
But no, I mean that seriously, because it's like I think just like any of our topics, there is actually a lot of nuance in this, and a big thing that you'll hear me ring the bell on whenever we're talking about something heavy or something more lighthearted, which I feel like this is going to be lighthearted territory, where we still pull out, some strong, good principles from. And that's the idea of not swinging from one extreme to another, right? To understand that moderation is key, and what that moderation looks like in different people's lives. So I say that as like a contextual preface to, yeah, absolutely. There's a number of people who love video games as an escape. They love video games to just zone out, turn their brain off, and relax. And I get it, you know, there are absolutely times that that's exactly what it is for me too. But when you bring it up though, Nate, for me, what triggers in my mind in response to what how you introduced this aren't necessarily the times when I'm playing a particular game that is a let me just zone out and turn my brain off, but quite the opposite. It's those games out there in my past or current day, for one reason or another on across a huge spectrum that engage the hell out of me, you know, that
Yeah.
challenge the hell out of me. In fact, the harder a game is, the more difficult it is, I've found, the older I've gotten, the more I want that stuff to be very hard, very difficult. Maybe
Yeah.
not so much that I, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
I don't play it, but but I love the challenge now. I love the difficulty. I love not being able to complete something in the beginning, having to actually take the time to intentionally figure it out, and then just the reward that I find for myself when I finally do complete whatever it is that I was trying to complete.
Yeah.
And like you said, you know, that's something that if I wasn't talking about a video game specifically in the beginning, you wouldn't necessarily know that we're talking about video games, you know? Like
Yeah.
real life implications. So yeah, I
Well,
think it's
so
a fascinating topic.
yeah, yeah, me too. And so, in terms of real life implications, we said character development. When
Yeah.
we talk about character development, what are we actually talking about?
Oh, well, starting in my mind as a kid, right? And you know this more than I do with you know, I've raised dogs. I've not raised children. So this is not coming from an area of expertise as a father figure in someone's life, but this is coming from a, you know, someone who just like anyone else was a kid and you may or may not had a great childhood growing up. And for me personally, I didn't necessarily have the easiest or what I would have preferred growing up, right? And I'm sure a lot of people can mirror that. And so for me, I think about the times in my life that I've been through things that helped shape how I see people, how I see challenges, how I see complications, how I see conflict. We talked about that.
Yeah.
And honestly, a lot of that stuff, whatever I'm proud to admit it or not, did not come from my family. It did not come from maybe some of the primary sources where it should have come from. So as a kid, for better or for worse, some good habits and some bad habits were developed in my character from video games. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an important part, I think, of even recognizing what it means to develop in your character. The development isn't always positive. I mean,
That's right.
you can develop negatively, for sure. But I think
Hmm.
in this conversation, at least for this first part of it, talking about positive developments,
Yeah,
it's like, I mean, can you learn patience from a video game?
yeah. Oh, you can learn it, and you, like you said, you can also go the
You can
opposite end when you
unlearn. You
throw a
could learn
controller
the
against
opposite
a
of that.
wall.
That's right. Can you learn resilience?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Learning from
absolutely.
failure,
Mm,
problem solving,
yeah.
teamwork, or even like empathy. Is it possible to learn empathy from a video game?
Yeah. I would obviously biasly say yes.
Yeah. So I guess I'll ask it this way. Um, for you, you talked about, playing games in your childhood, and that was a big
Hmm.
experience for me as well with my dad. It was like a 6 years out of date console, but playing the original, NES,
Yeah.
Nintendo Entertainment System, and
We're
playing like
dating ourselves a little.
old school Zelda. Well, like I said, it was way out of date. So,
It wasn't as
yeah,
out of date for
I
me.
first got the NES in when I was 5 years old in 2005.
Yeah.
So, I'm young like that. I was just way later. In case you're doing the numbers, 5 years old in 2005 would mean I'm 25 now, and
Sounds accurate. Yeah, I'm only 23, so
I'm
we're
definitely
good. Let's
not
just keep
25
going.
now. Let's keep going. What's your earliest memory of
Oh, yeah,
feeling
there you
like a
go.
game taught you something?
Oh, okay.
Not just earliest memory, period.
Hmm.
We'd be really getting off the reservation
What's your
if we
earliest
went in
memory?
that direction. What's your earliest memory of feeling like a game taught you something?
Gosh, feeling like a game taught me something like
Taught you
earliest
something
memory.
deeper than just like how to play the game, but something that
Yeah.
ended up bleeding over into how you live your life.
I don't know if this is going to be a direct one-to-one, but I will say that some of my earliest memories also was on the NES, for sure. And for me, it came from my older brothers. So, just to give a little bit of historical context here, because we know how important that is, looking at some Bible stories, right? I feel like I have a pretty unique upbringing in the sense that I was pretty much an only child but with multiple father figures in my life. And the reason why I say that is my closest brother to me is 10 years older. My other brother is 15 years older, and my sister's 20 years older. So this is
Yep.
kind of a routine thing that I explain to some people sometimes because it's like my earliest memory when it comes to video games was because like my closest brother who's 10 years older than me, he was the one who got the NES, which, may or may not have been in his prime when he was at the house. Uh, and then I remember specifically when he left and left the video game console behind, for me, in a strange way, me playing his games was me trying to connect with him. Was
Mm,
me trying I had these memories of me trying to experience what he experienced so that I could understand more of what he understood. Because I had this very strong drive in me, even as a kid, for connection to my brothers, especially. Yeah.
yeah.
And so no specific video games. I do remember the original Final Fantasy on NES, the original Zelda on NES.
Oh yeah.
Um, I remember the very first Mario, which in my opinion was trash. The second one was a little better. The third was my favorite.
Oh yeah. Mario 3 is great.
Yeah. But yeah, like I said, I don't know if that's a direct answer one to one, but like I do remember that this desire of wanting to connect with people was a motivating factor for me getting into it to begin with,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. I think for me, trying to think back to like my earliest memories of a game that like I walked away with like something significant was it was Zelda, but
Mm,
not Zelda on the NES. I feel like when I was playing Zelda on the NES, I was too young to know
yeah.
what the heck was going on. Like I
Mm,
would just run around and do stuff. I would never beat any of those games. I mean, could I even beat it today? Going back, I don't know. I haven't tried. Those games are so obtuse and unclear, but I
very.
just ran around and did stuff, and that was enough.
Hmm.
But as I got a little bit older, when the Nintendo 64 came out, and some years later, after it came out and came down in price, my family got one, and we couldn't afford to buy games outright, but we would rent them
Hmm.
because the game prices were just like, rent them was like $5 for like a week. But if you bought it, it was like $70 or something. So
Yeah.
we would rent The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. And as a kid, like for the first couple years of playing that game, I was too scared to do anything. I would just run around the tutorial area. Like we'd rent it for a week, and then, I was homeschooled, so I'd finish up school and then I'd play Zelda. And I would just run around the little forest tutorial area for
That's
like a
funny.
week. Like a
That's funny,
week.
man.
And then I would make it into the first dungeon and be like, no, this is too scary. This is not for me. I'm gonna go run around the forest again, which is really weird because now I go and play it with my kids, like revisit it, and it's like, how did I? There's nothing to do in this
Yeah,
tutorial
there's a
area.
whole nother game out there, bro.
There's all the rest of the game. But as I got a little older, I got a little farther and a little farther, and probably the first big memory of like something that stuck with me as like an achievement that bled over into real life. I'm not going to say I learned something that changed me quite from this, but it was like the beginnings of something like that.
Hmm.
Was there was a boss way later in the game that I was just stuck on. I was just absolutely stuck on, and nothing's convenient in these older games. So
Hmm.
you die and you're like, okay, I'm back at the beginning of this whole area. I've got to get all the way there again. so I can fight the boss again and die again. And I just remember being stuck on this one particular boss for like months. It was like months. And I couldn't beat it.
Yeah.
And finally, I remember one day I had braces and I had to go get like the rubber bands changed that day. And I got them changed and I was like, I got a new color on that I had never got before. And I was feeling just like, this is like a new me. I'm going to beat that boss today. And I hopped in there and I did it first try. And it was
That's
like,
nuts.
I did it. Now, I
Yeah.
found out years later that the boss actually isn't very hard. I had just been not using like the most important item that you need to be using to fight the boss. I'd just been doing
Yeah.
it like in like a self-imposed hard mode.
Yeah, wrong tool.
And so, I told people like, you beat that boss without using the bow and the arrow and like stuff like that. So now it's like a badge of honor for like kid me to have done
That's
that.
funny.
But that's the first thing that really stuck out as like it wasn't like I've tried this 3 or 4 times and I can't do it, so now I'm done. Like there was no option back then. It was like, this is the game I have. Like this is it. So I'm just going to keep trying this for months until it happens. But that kind of leads me to like I guess kind of a more main point, because one of the biggest areas, and you mentioned this, Tony, one of the biggest areas with this topic of like growing from playing like something as low stakes as a game, but experience genuine growth through it, is not just playing a game to zone out and have like mindless entertainment, but going through a like game experience that is so challenging that it's just beating you down initially. Like you're just losing and losing and losing and losing and losing. So for you, what is that game that frustrated the heck out of you to the degree that you considered giving up many times? But what game did you just keep going at?
So here's the first one that jumps at me. Whatever this is accurate as my first time experiencing this kind of situation, I'm not sure. But it is one that fits the bill of the description you just said, combined with uh, gaming doesn't just grow you because it's challenging, right? There are some games, there are different types of games out there, but there are some games, like you said early on with the game that we're playing right now as our friend group community, Repo, where it does just that. It brings in your friend group, it brings in your community. It forces you, especially if it is a challenging game as well, to interact with your friends and grow one way or another, either in empathy and understanding and problem solving or in frustration with your friends. And so for me, the game that kind of really put me into that scenario was Destiny, when we all got into
Okay.
Destiny together. Yeah. And this, first happened, I don't know, a decade ago with D1 and
Yeah.
over and over again, different seasons throughout
Yeah.
D2.
I missed the Destiny 1 train. I
Yeah,
wasn't
the
involved in
initial.
that.
Yeah, I think your brother Kanan was. I definitely
Oh yeah,
remember
he
how
definitely was.
trolly your brother was in that game. But yeah, no, especially in you can remember sometimes with this, especially in some of the in-game content of Destiny, of raiding, when you're talking about taking 6 people, who hopefully are prepared to a certain level, both in-game and an understanding of the mechanics of the raid that you're about to do, and then you're gonna spend the next 3 hours together hopefully solving these puzzles basically, for lack of better term, and only to beat your head against the wall over and over and over again. And it's like, you know what, I'm done. I can't do it anymore. I can only take JT so much longer. And then to finally come out on the other end of it, which hopefully is the same night, but sometimes it wasn't. But to
Right.
come out on the other
Yeah.
end of it and beating a section, beating the next section, and finally beating the whole damn thing. I love not only the feeling of accomplishment, like I said in the very beginning, that you have for yourself, but Destiny was the first time that I was able to have that challenge, not back down from that challenge, and then have that feeling of success, and then have it with people that I care about.
Yeah.
And for me, that was the peak of video gaming for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So was it the like the sheer amount of effort that you put into preparing for that stuff and then like wrangling the cats that were our friend group into accomplishing these things? Was that the main takeaway for you?
Yeah, I would say that's definitely an element in the equation, the effort, because it definitely was not something that you could just boot up a game like we do with Repo today. I'm like, hey, let's just hop in, no problem, you know. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I do think, wrangling the cats is definitely a good way of saying it. But yeah, creating those memories as well, was just so huge. Like I can remember the first time that we beat Crota. I can remember the first time that we beat the Taken King. Like, and these all very nerdy Destiny things. And it's just like, yeah, just being able to share it with someone else because I think maybe if the astute listener can pick up on this, when I was a kid, one of my desires was for it not to just be me experiencing this
Yeah.
magnificent story or challenge or whatever it is that I was playing, but wanting to connect with someone else over it. I think that was definitely something that I was looking for whenever I realized it or not.
Yeah, totally. The camaraderie of
Yeah,
doing something difficult with your buddies and you're all in voice chat and it's like you're doing it for fun but it's also like a challenge and you're doing it
yeah.
together
And you're a
and the fun
team,
is winning or losing but hopefully winning together
Yeah.
as a group. Yeah, there's definitely some really cool memories we've had over the years of playing with the boys, running around doing some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me the one that sticks out, and you know exactly what I'm
Hey,
going to
by
bring
all
up here,
means.
is like the one game that as an adult, like a developed brained, busy, like life has demands adult, the game that challenged me just right to the end was a game called Celeste,
Yeah.
which is like, you mentioned Mario earlier. It's like a Mario kind of game. You're
Yeah.
jumping, but it's
Very
less of like a,
indie
you know,
platformer.
yeah, it's an indie platformer. You're jumping from platform to platform and you're getting to, the end of the stage, but it's less like bright and happy and just a little more like introspective, and there's a story to it and so on and so forth, which sounds silly for a platformer, but this game, I got into it because I heard it was really good,
Mhm.
and I was very, very busy. I was helping lead a ministry. I had two really young kids, but at the end of the day, I would like sit down and play for like 30 minutes or something,
Mhm.
and maybe play for like an hour. And I'd sit there with my wife, and we would play, and we'd go through it together, or my kids would be there, and I would narrate it for them, and we just do it like together as a group. But this game, so hard. So flipping hard.
Yeah.
The whole idea is like if you die, like every screen is like a level, and if you die, you don't have like a limited amount of lives. You just respawn at the beginning of that screen, and then you
Mhm.
try to go through again, and then you keep dying until you make it to the next screen. And once you're on the next screen, if you die, you go to the beginning of that next screen as opposed to all the way back.
Mhm.
So you're just kind of making linear progress, which is, it's fine. It's no big deal. But there's like the basic game, and you go all the way through it. And you're like, that was really difficult. But then there's like collecting all the little extra things. There's these little strawberries you get. And that's got to be like twice as difficult as just going through the main game. But I was like, let's just do it because I'm enjoying the game. And then once you do all that, there's another level called the B-sides, where you
Mhm.
go through all the levels again, but they're like multiple times more difficult than the already difficult main game. And at that point, I was like, well, I already came this far. I've just got to keep on going because I've got that
Committed.
completionist in me. I've got
Yeah.
that like I've got to finish it off. So I was going through it, and it was unbelievably difficult. Probably the
Yeah.
hardest game I had ever played up to that point was going through the B-sides, and I did it eventually.
Mhm.
And then it unlocked something called the C-sides. So there's the A-sides, like the main game, the B-sides, which was the hardest thing I had ever done up to that point in terms of a video game, and then there was the C-sides.
Mhm.
And the C-sides, like, there's nothing wrong with saying, I don't want to play anymore. But I did want to beat it. And it
Yeah.
almost broke my will I guess that's the term. It almost broke my will in the sense of
Yeah.
going, I so want to do this, but
Yeah.
I can't. I know I
Yeah.
can, but I can't, and I'm gonna give
Mm.
up. Like I came right to that little threshold, which once again, it's a video game. This is low stakes by definition.
Yeah.
And you know, like the game itself, the story is about this girl who's trying to climb a mountain, and like the narrative, like the character development of the character you're reading is like, I can't climb this mountain. Like I cannot do it. And there's other moving pieces, but it's like reflecting how I was feeling. Like I can't climb this flipping mountain. I can't do it. And this one particular screen that I hit this point with this one screen. It was,
Yeah.
I think it was the third screen of Seaside 7. I tried that screen because, of course, the game keeps a counter for every time you died. I
Mhm.
died over 1,000 times on that screen. I think it was like
Yeah.
1,300 and something. And I just kept dying and dying and dying. And you know, I come from like a very competitive family, right?
Yeah.
And I'm the firstborn of a very competitive family, so I have a very competitive like bent in me. And with a very competitive bent can come like a lot of emotions. Like I want to win, so I'm emotionally invested. And then
Mhm.
when you don't win and you're failing, the emotions can kind of backlash on you. And so like as a younger person, but even like my young adulthood, I dealt a lot with like getting really angry with whether I'm losing at a sport or I'm losing at just like any game, a video game, a card game. Just like I want to win. I'm invested in winning. And I was like one of those people that was just like, I'm gonna lose my cool because I'm not winning at a game. Right. So just like a competitive ass, right? Like that sort of deal. Just like overly competitive jerk.
Oh yeah.
And I didn't like that about myself for a really, really long time. And I still don't like that aspect of what I deal with there. But I read a book called The Inner Game of Tennis because it was all about like what is the purpose of competition? What is the purpose of going through like a challenge? And is it just to win? Is competition just about winning, or is it about pitting yourself against something that is genuinely challenging to bring out like every inch of your capability?
Yeah.
And so that changed my perspective on competition. This book, fantastic book, by the way, The Inner Game of Tennis, recommend it. It's not just about tennis, it's about all competition. But soon after I read this book, I played this game, and going through the main game and then getting all the collectibles and then the B-sides and then finally the C-sides, the emotions that would come with like, I have been on this screen, like I've been playing the screen for 30 minutes and I've died 100 times. I think I'm going to quit because I'm
Yeah.
upset. I'm frustrated. I'm thinking, why am I even doing this? This is my free time. I'm sitting here with my family.
Yeah. Why am I
playing
torturing myself?
Why am I torturing myself with this? And those were all the things. And I think it would have been completely valid to be like, I don't want to do this anymore. But I did want to
absolutely.
beat it. Like at a certain point, it
Mhm.
became like, I'm so far and I want to actually finish this thing. So then it became a war for days and for weeks
I
of
love it.
like sitting down for like, okay, I've got 15 minutes. Come on, family, let's sit down. I'm going to play this game I'm going to try this screen for another 15 minutes. And it was like day after day of like whatever amount of free time I had, I would sit down with the family and we'd go through this thing again. Maybe the kids would go to bed and it was just me and my wife, me and Savannah, like watching me go through this thing. And it became a war of just quit. Why are you even bothering doing this? And then, but I'm so far and I want to do it. And it was this back and forth where you'd go and you'd get like you get closer to the end than you never got before, and then you die again. And you're going through, and it's like mastering an instrument. You know, I'm a multi-instrumentalist. Tony, I know you play viola.
That's right.
It's like that thing where you're trying to get that thing down, and your fingers have it memorized, but you just keep screwing up anyway. You're like, why can't I get this right? It was like that. And then like I die again, and it was like, I've died 500 times now.
Yeah.
I can't do it. But I know I can. It's right there, but I can't do it. And like the mental game, the back and forth for weeks of going through this stupid screen, dying 1,300 something times until I finally did it. And
Mm.
it wasn't just like a sense of accomplishment. Through the course of like trying to beat this stupid screen, the things that I was like learning about the importance of challenge and
Mm-hmm.
competition, and then like the role of emotions, but then like how to manage those and how to manage the self-talk and
Mm.
that thing in your head that says you'll never do this and you can't do this and you're a failure and you suck at this, and that self-talk thing that some people, not all people, but some people deal with. I've definitely dealt with my entire life.
Yeah.
Learning how to manage that over the course of, again, playing something as like this is the lowest stakes thing possible. And I recognize that. It's a video game. It is a game. There are no stakes here. It doesn't matter. But it was a low stakes environment that I inadvertently ended up putting those things I had been learning about myself through like a trial by fire, and eventually kind of coming out 1,300 tries later and accomplishing it.
Mm.
And it locked something into my being. Like there was like a permanent shift in the way I talk to myself in my head. There was a permanent shift in the way I treat the emotional responses that come with failure and whatever else. And like anytime I talk about this, because I've talked about this with you a few times, I've talked about this
That's
with a
right.
couple other people, it seems like really, really silly. Like it is a video game.
No, 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 man.
But it was genuinely like it was the arena by which I became proficient in multiple like mental emotional skills that I had never developed in any other area in my life. And
Yeah,
so as silly
I
as it
think that's
sounds,
so huge, man. Yeah, it's not
yeah,
silly at all. Like, and when you're talking about how this is a low stakes environment, right? Obviously, there's not huge conflict at stake. There's not relationships between people or communities or X, Y, and Z, which is a lot of the stuff that we like to talk about and hint about. But what better environment can someone, a young person, someone, how old were you when this happened? This was like 10 years ago, less than that, right, Nate?
yeah, less than 10 years ago. This would be like
Yeah.
maybe
It's like,
5 years ago, 6 years ago.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's like whenever you're a kid or you're growing up and you're developing your character, or you're an adult and you're going through the day-to-day humdrums of work and family life and being a parent, it's like you would much rather experience those failures that you experienced over and over again in a low stakes environment, in a way that what you learned, so many other people, when they learn that same lesson, and a lot of times it's an if they learn that same lesson, it comes from a lot of conflict. It comes from a lot of things in real life that can really push them to the point of breaking, right? And so
Yeah.
you hear all kinds of great stories like that. But to be honest with you, it's like, man, just like I want to learn from other people's mistakes, I'd rather not make them myself.
Yeah.
I would encourage anyone to learn in a low stakes environment first. Get your kids to develop in a low stakes environment first, so that when they are forced to deal with their emotions, and like you said, the negative self-talk, or the backlash that can come with being competitive, which, yeah, that also goes back to what we were talking about, how you and I have been involved with sports our whole life. And it's like, yeah, like there was so much of that went into me, and I'm sure you too, Nate, of what you were describing, of if you don't win, then you're a loser, right? Second
Yeah.
place is the first loser. And there is a level of truth to that. I'm not sitting here trying to advocate the other extreme where it's like, oh, everyone should get handouts. No, I'm quite the difference. I want things to be hard. I want people to develop. But man, not a insignificant thing just because it's low stakes.
Yeah. And I think I may have mentioned this a, a handful of podcast episodes ago. But I've read a good chunk of Charles Duhigg's work.
Mm.
He's an investigative journalist that does a lot about like habit. He does a lot of
Yeah.
like citing research on habit, and he wrote the book called The Power of Habit, and he wrote another
I
one
was
called
just about to
Smarter,
say that,
Better,
yeah.
Faster, Stronger, or Smarter, Better, Faster. Yeah, Smarter, Better, Faster, Stronger. Um, he talks about how research has indicated that the single greatest determinant or determining factor of success into adulthood. Success is like a broad spectrum, but you just think success in terms of career and family and like basic markers that most people would agree on as being like success markers. The
Mm-hmm.
greatest determining factor of success is the ability to persevere through adversity.
Yeah,
That there's like
absolutely.
a whole lot of other factors in a life. There's how you were raised, and there's how affluent your family was, and education and stuff like that. But the single greatest
For sure.
determining factor of success is the ability to persevere through like being challenged and losing and failing, and that fail, analyze, adapt, try again, like learning
Yes.
loop thing.
Yeah, the
Um,
resiliency, right?
yeah, the resilience.
Absolutely.
And so in his book, he really recommends getting kids involved in some kind of sport from a young
Yeah.
age, because it's a
Mm-hmm.
very like it is a safe, low stakes environment
That's
where
right.
it's not live or die, it's not sink or swim, it's a sport. And you might have like negative emotions that come with losing, right? But it is a safe environment where your child experiences adversity and then is given the opportunity to learn how to persevere through that adversity.
Yeah.
Um, Video games are not the same thing as sports because your physical body is not being pushed to the limit.
That is true.
Um, at least most of your physical body, like your muscles, are not being pushed to their limit. But there are quite a lot of other things that are pushed to their limits with certain very, very difficult video games. There's a
Yeah.
lot of mental, there's a lot of reflex, there's a lot of muscle memory that goes into accomplishing something really, really hard in a video game setting. And, I was involved in sports from a young age, but I was also playing games that were really difficult for me from a young
Yeah.
age. And so,
Absolutely.
like, this whole experience with this game, Celeste, it really like brought to mind that first experience I brought up earlier, playing Zelda and trying for not just weeks but months to beat this thing. Now it
Mm-hmm.
seemed like a much less big deal to me as a kid because I was a kid. I had
Yeah.
nothing better to do, right? As an adult, I had every reason to give up, um, and every reason to give up, but every like a million different factors that were saying you can just stop doing this. So it was a different thing, but definitely the um, overcoming adversity, like losing once or twice, doesn't mean I quit on something. Like I know
Mm-hmm.
I can keep going and I can improve at it over time. I
Mm.
can get better and better, and even just like the ability to problem solve.
Yeah, absolutely.
I credit a lot of my ability to problem solve to just playing games like Zelda when I was a kid and just like observing my environment and looking for little telltale signs and then just rationalizing my way through something. And so, my kids, they're allowed to play video games,
Mm-hmm.
not with free reign,
Yeah.
mind you. And I do think that is
Moderation, like we said.
I do think that's a part of the discussion, and we may have to bring this up at the end here.
Yeah.
But my kids have a pretty strict limit on how much they are allowed to have like screen time per day.
That makes
But
sense.
I would much rather them play a video game than watch a TV show
Mm-hmm. More
because
engaging.
one of them is going to involve much more active thinking and processing and adversity, where you're not going to experience any kind of challenge or adversity by watching a television show, which is not to say that TV shows or movies are devoid of value. That's not what I'm
Yeah, no,
saying. There
of
are
course
plenty
not.
that are devoid of value, but it's not to say that all of them are. But if they're going to have 20 minutes of screen time a day, I'd rather them be doing something that involves challenge and like pushes their mind and pushes their abilities and helps them to learn this skill of
Mm-hmm.
pushing through adversity.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, man. So would you say that your experience with Celeste, like without a doubt, you when you were talking about how it just shifted something in you permanently, right? Like it was kind of before your adversity that you overcame with Celeste and after, right? Can
Yep.
you think of a specific time out like later on, like whenever dealing with your family or friends or maybe something else where if you didn't go through that, you definitely would have had a different outcome, or maybe that's just too hypothetical.
It might be difficult for me to pinpoint a like very specific moment. Maybe if I had time to really think it through, I could come up with a specific moment. But the biggest thing that I've felt bleed over into my real life is the self-talk
Yes. Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Because when you've failed at something for literal hundreds of times and for days and weeks, the self-talk starts getting pretty nasty. Um,
Yeah.
for those of you out there who deal with self-talk, you know what I'm talking about. But just that voice going, you will never do this. You cannot do this. You are wasting your time. You suck at this. Other people can do it, but you can't do it because you're terrible. And there's that little line of thinking that can then the feed the emotions, and then obviously your performance in whatever you're doing deteriorates like way faster.
Yeah.
It's the self-talk stuff that I had dealt with my entire life, and that going through this game, I'm not going to say it solved it. It didn't
No.
solve it. I find that a lot of the
It's always a
times
progress, a journey.
yeah, it's always it's a journey. It didn't solve it, but it was the first time that I got consistent success in managing the self-talk. Like it was like something did click, and like, oh, this is how I can recognize when that self-talk is leading me in a really negative direction. This is how I can like root myself in what's true, or sweep that stuff aside because it's going to be firmly in the unhelpful category or whatever else. That experience, like that bled over into things like my job and my parenting, and
Mm-hmm.
even in other areas where there is like things of, we our very first episode was the discipleship of hard things, and this is kind of a spiritual successor to that
Yeah, that's
episode.
right. Yeah.
But instead of just like physical activity, we're talking about video games now. Ha ha ha.
Talk about two extremes, right, people?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. But even in like my own physical activity and like weightlifting and the different sports that I engage in and stuff like that, self-talk is a real thing.
Yeah.
And it's a real factor. And so that absolutely bled over into those
Yeah.
areas in a way that it's just permanently, hopefully permanently, hopefully I just keep improving. But so far, it's permanently changed the way I manage that voice in my head.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I'll relate this to another physical activity for me. If you guys haven't heard me talk about it before, I'm a big personal fan of volleyball, sand volleyball primarily, but you know, I'll dabble with some indoor if only I was a little bit taller, but that's besides the point. Um, so I've a couple years ago had the opportunity to attend this training camp that was given by these really great AVP professional volleyball players who I've followed for a long time. And I would say the number one thing that stuck with me after leaving that camp wasn't just the technical skills and the technical training, which that's absolutely why I went. Like I've played the game long enough to recognize, hey, these are the areas where I lack in consistent technical skills and training, and I need to double up on it. And I'm grateful for what I learned in that regard. But the bigger impact that I got from them, that now every single time I'm in that competitive environment, which I do a lot of competitive league play nowadays, you know, on a recreational level, obviously, but it can be so easy to have that same self-talk, like you're saying, Nate, especially when you start losing, especially when you know you're playing a team that's better than you, and you know that, hey, the reason why we're losing right now is because of me. I've made this many unforced errors, and this shouldn't have happened, and that shouldn't have happened, and all of a sudden you're down a slippery slope, right?
Yeah.
And so the thing that stuck with me with them was, yeah, we played a win, absolutely. Like that's always the goal. Winning is what makes you happy. Winning is what makes you money for these professionals. But each individual game, winning is not the goal. It's getting better. Are
Mm.
we getting better in this game? Did we make an attempt to get better in this play? And if we focus on getting better, if we focus on making sure that we're not measuring our success by if this was a failure or not, but instead of did we get better in this play or did we get worse? Okay, we got worse. Okay, what can we do to get better in the next play? Like having that mind frame has just been night and day for me when it comes to volleyball, and being able to connect that mind frame that, oh, I can't believe it took me this long to learn this in my volleyball world, because this is something that I've discovered spiritually and emotionally a number of years ago. And this is something that here we are talking about video games has been some of my favorite parts of video games is the ones that challenge me and really grow me. And it's just funny, I find that as I get older, I start to realize all of this stuff is connected, you know? And so,
Yeah.
like you said, like low stakes or not, and having a kid get into a sport because it really is a low stakes environment that gives them an opportunity to learn how to lose well. And it's not, oh, losing because, hey, I'm okay with losing. It's because I know I'm gonna get better. Even though I just lost just now, I know that next time I'm gonna get better and I'm gonna get better and I'm gonna get better. And I'm okay with losing now because I am growing who I am. And so I just think that's so true in sports. I think it's true in video games. I think it's true in relationships. And that's why I just love this topic in general. And when you first told me about Celeste, like, oh yeah, and I firing on all signals, that's not the right idiom, but whatever.
You still haven't played Celeste, have you?
I have dabbled.
Tisk
Have I
tisk.
have I taken the commitment that you have? No, I have not. But I still, we could talk. I love roguelike games, right? And we both got into Hades pretty
Hmm.
strong, a game where you can be so close to success, die and lose it all, and having to start over. And it's just, and not just talking about Hades, but any roguelikes I love. Elden Ring, I feel like has that level of difficulty too, right? Which is honestly another
Yes.
another game that I've never fully submersed myself into as far as 100% of the content. But every time I play it, I recognize what it is and I appreciate it. It's such a challenging game, and I love that. I want more people playing challenging games, not just ones where they turn their brains off, which those have a point, I guess. I'm not gonna sit here and say that SpongeBob SquarePants is the worst thing on earth, right? So I love the challenge for sure.
Yep. There's a handful of other games I think we could have brought up here. For me, the ones that really come to mind are things like you mentioned Elden Ring, but the Dark Souls series are
Mhm.
really standout games for a lot of people. And Hollow Knight is another one that a lot of
Yeah.
people like
Yep.
really struggled with, but taught them a lot. For me, neither of them came close to being as crazy difficult as Celeste was.
Yeah.
Or I think it's because I played both those games. I played Elden Ring, I played Dark Souls games, I played Hollow Knight after I played Celeste. But yeah, I'll kind of in heading to an end here. I wanted to ask. This whole topic isn't all positive.
Yeah.
When we talk about especially as a Jesus follower perspective,
Yeah.
how do we approach this entire thing? How do we
Mhm.
balance something that it can have a great benefit? It can be enjoyable. It can be a way of connecting with friends. There can be a lot of good here. But what about responsible stewardship of our time and
Yeah.
our resources? And then how do we personally decide which games are okay to engage with? Are there lines that you draw? And we got to be real. There are some dangers to this entire thing.
Mhm.
There's addiction,
Mhm.
escapism. It's a very possible to be a part of a community that can be like really unhelpful and toxic and whatever else. So it's like, how do we navigate all that stuff wisely?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I would say the first and foremost indicator that you have to ask yourself is, are you playing a game called Call of Duty? No, I say that as a an illustrative joke for a number of toxic possible games out there, absolutely. And not the game in and of itself. There are some games in and of itself that definitely lean more towards a toxic community. Avoiding being intentional about that toxic community and being intentional about who you are, right? And I think that's the biggest thing for me. Because you said the word escapism. And I completely agree. I think that especially if we're talking about a younger person, we're talking about kids, we're talking about someone who maybe has not had enough opportunities yet to grow in their character, it can be really easy to shut off the real world and escape into something else, right?
Yep.
Um, and that's exactly what I was hinting at early on too, is about not swinging from one extreme to another and measuring things in moderation. And not to get all super religiously or anything as well, but at the end of the day, for me, and maybe this will be a tangent for another good conversation another day, sin in and of itself is a very interesting term that I feel like for a lot of people doesn't we don't have the same definition, right? And the idea that can something be a sin for you and it not be a sin for me, or vice versa, you know? And for me, at the end of the day, it does come down to selfishness. And so when I really do, and especially in the past when I've had to ask myself some of these questions is, am I jumping into this game because I want to shut down, because I want to hide from real life responsibilities? Is my primary motivation for this video gaming season of my life rooted in some level of I care more about me than other people, or I care more about shutting down than actually um, standing up, you know? The selfishness, is that my motivating drive or not? And
Yep.
that's, it's very hard for people to self ascertain and especially for kids. And that's why kids should not have free reign. And I'll, as a kid who had free reign, I will tell you firsthand, not the best across the board. That's for damn sure. But, yeah, I do think that it definitely can be some murky waters in a couple of different territories that if you're not careful, you can walk into unwillingly, unknowingly, and maybe you've already been there. Maybe you've already been that person who's very toxic online when it comes to interacting with strangers. I'd make an argument that a lot of that, unfortunately, is very prevalent with the current case of social media and how partisan and polarized our society is in general, that it's real easy to just say things and lash out at strangers online because there's a screen between us that you would never say in real life because of X, Y, and Z. Um, and so for me, it really is an extreme thing. I'm urging you not to throw out the baby with the bathwater, but please know that there is complications there that you need to be aware of and develop some level of wisdom and discernment,
Mhm.
because you have to have that either for yourself or for someone that you're responsible for.
Yeah, we've that's been a theme over the last handful of podcast episodes, is just the importance of developing wisdom
Mhm.
and being able to see that flow of life, learning wisdom from a good source of wisdom. I would say that would be from Jesus. But learning
Yeah.
wisdom from a good source of wisdom, and then learning how to evaluate the situation in front of you and make wise, beneficial, and loving decisions. So, I mean, there's so many things you can get addicted to in the world.
Hmm.
There's
Yeah.
so many things you can escape with. Lots of things that are very good in moderation. Things like sports
Right.
and exercise and food and relationships and community. But or video games or whatever else, books. All those things can be abused. All those things can be twisted into like this deformed thing that can consume your life instead of adding to your life. But I think that's what it takes is wisdom, and then keeping the most important things the most important things.
Yeah.
There's a reason why my wife and I, we have a pretty strict limit on what we allow our kids to do with video games, because I don't want them growing up so consumed by screens that they don't understand the most important things in life. Yeah. But yeah. So coming back to the main question as we wrap up, can video games develop your character? And I think based on our conversation, it's like a nuanced yes, or yes, if approached intentionally. I think perseverance via difficulty. There was a whole other thing we could have discussed, and maybe we will discuss someday.
Yeah, I think we'll have a good opportunity for a part 2 here.
I think we have a good opportunity for a part 2. I want to bring some other people in on this because I think it's a really enjoyable conversation. But even
there's a couple of games I wanted to bring up that I didn't, but that's okay. I'll save it for them.
but even like there's a whole other area where like we could have dived more into problem solving. We could have dived a lot more into...
that's where I wanted to go, was problem solving. But
problem solving, but even like collaboration.
Blueprints. If anyone loves problem solving and you need a video game right now, go play Blueprints.
Oh, you told me about that. I haven't had a chance.
It's so good, dude.
Yeah, but even also with the idea of a narrative.
Yes.
What games have like left that kind of imprint on you, where like have taught you something you've genuinely learned from?
Yeah, where did this last hour go? I'm confused. Have we been talking?
We were. Yeah, I was talking at least. I don't know about you. Yeah. So I think there's an opportunity to get more into this later, and maybe bring in some of our buddies, some of our community, to have some more perspectives. But yeah, my challenge to those of you out there would be, if you are somebody that would wholesale write off video games as being like an absolute void of time and goodness, I would maybe say, hopefully this gives you a little bit of a different perspective. On the flip side, for those of you who do enjoy playing video games, I would ask you, what of the games you've played, what have you learned from them?
Yes.
Are they just genuinely a void, a black hole of time and goodness in your life? Or are there things that you are benefiting from? Are there things that you're learning from? That's what I would ask you guys. So you can chime in on the comments. I'm pretty sure Spotify actually has a comment section now for podcasts. So you guys can hop in. Look forward to seeing what you guys have to say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Make sure you send us your fan mail. I'm just kidding. Don't do that. Just leave a comment.
Don't be a bomb.
Yeah, right. We're going to get anthrax in the mail by an anti-video game person. Yep. Well, thank you guys for listening. As always, next time we will be able to hit you again with another easy approach to a difficult question, another easy discussion. So, again, as always, I've been Nate, and Tony, thanks for joining me, man.
Y'all have a good one. Thank you.
Peace.